Please stand for salute to the flag and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Dr. Baldino,
Here.
Mr. Cannon,
Here.
Mrs. Donahue, Mr. Elling,
Present.
Mr. Johnston,
Here.
Mr. Knopf,
Here.
Ms. Lynch,
Here.
Mr. Scaff,
Here.
and Mrs. Smith.
Here.
8 members present.
Okay, before we get started, we had an executive session earlier this evening from 6:16 to 6:21 concerning a personnel issue. First up is going to be the presentation of general fund budget. Joni?
Okay. I'll have Colton go ahead and pull that up. So the reasoning for the presentation today is because we have updated numbers. Unfortunately, it went in the wrong direction, and that is due to the health insurance increase. It is 18.1%.
Wow.
That was my reaction as well. I was not expecting it. I was thinking possibly somewhere 11, 12, the highest, but we'll go through some of these slides and kind of give you an explanation as to how it got there. So go ahead and just go to slide 3. This is the budget timeline, which we've discussed here. This is actually from our insurance company. Basically, the red line says your July 1, 2024 renewal is 18.1%. So that's the most important number on this page. If you look up above the top left, this is where we are right now in 23-24. We are at 118% of expected. So kind of give you an idea how this works. We pay it 80%. So we commit the funds for 80% of what we expect our claims to be. We are at 118. So we are responsible for paying 80 to 100, and anything over 100 that gets divided out amongst the rest of the consortium helps pay for that. So that is a huge advantage of being in a consortium. They help pay for your years that you have a deficit. We've also helped in the past years. We've helped other schools pay their deficit or their shortfall.
Sure.
But as of right now, that 80 to 100% is about $850,000. That could go up, that could go down. I don't know what that will look like. But as we go through, you're going to see where all these numbers are coming from. So that is a huge driver as to why we are at 18% for next year. So if you flip to the next slide, this gives you some reasons why our health insurance cost drivers, just the chronic disease burden. 39% of the members on our plan have 2 chronic problems or more. That could be diabetes, that could be joint and back pain, high blood pressure, mental health. It could be multiple reasons why they're in kind of that category of chronic disease. Inflation. You've got the providers, contractors. There's a lot of provider consolidation as well, but you also have the providers. The inflation of the cost of medical and medicine. New treatments are coming out. They have gen cell therapy that can cost anywhere from $1 million to $3 million if your plan covers that and promotes that. And then just the cost of innovation. Where the numbers really lie, we currently have 523 employees. 10 currently have reached $1 million stop loss.
What does that mean?
So that means that's okay.
shrink?
So stop loss, and that means they have reached $1 million. It's like insurance, stop loss insurance. So their claims are higher than $1 million
Per year?
per person.
Per person?
If we
per
have
year?
10 employees, who have currently hit it. It's just they've hit it now for the year. Since July 1st till now, they've hit $1 million in claims.
Given that $1 million stop loss,
Mhm.
is that current standard? Or is that now the $1 million should actually be $4 million?
Could be.
Or-
We only pay $1 million.
But what are, if we go with a different option, raise it up to 2 million, raise it up to 3 million?
Then you'll pay more. You'll
but would
pay
that
more out.
Offset us paying out of pocket?
No, because these are actual claims that we pay.
We pay up to the $1
We
million
paid up to the
point.
$1 million.
And then after that, that's whenever the insurance kicks in.
Oh, I got it backwards.
Yes, you
Yeah.
go backwards. Yes, we pay up to $1 million.
Okay.
And then that's what I'm saying. One claim honestly could be $4 million, but we only pay 1 million of it only.
And
We
you
pay
said
1
that's-
million of it.
Okay, so if we rate, but if we
Individual.
raised our threshold to 2 million, I know that sounds obscene, but if we raise the threshold, because I don't know when that 1 million was first established versus where we are today with costs. So if that threshold was raised to 2 million that we were paying, would we actually end up saving money?
I don't see how.
No, because after,
But
if
if
I'm not
more and more-
mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Joni. Once we reach that $1 million,
Mhm.
okay, that's whenever our insurance kicks in. And we don't pay any more. The insurance is paying.
But
I-
if we're,
I-
if we
I
have
would
so-
say
what I'm
this.
saying, if we have so many claims though, and we're now such a liability, if that's the way they see us. If we were less of a liability, what I'm saying, our percentage going up as a total would be lower. It wouldn't be, let's say 18, it might be
Right.
11.
Agreed, but I don't know if
Okay.
if that's an advantage of doing that and paying 2 million and having a less increase every year. I'd rather pay the 1 million and take the chance
Okay.
that it's not going to increase from year to
Okay.
year.
You
Um,
want to have a cap on it.
so having
Joni,
said that, that's 10 people that have already reached that. That's $10 million. 8 more are probably going to also hit that by the year end. So you figure that's $18 million.
That's
Tom,
fine.
go ahead.
That's what I was gonna ask. I wanted you to clarify that that's $1 million for each of the 10
Correct.
plus potential 8.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that is
$18 million.
$18 million that our stop loss company is,
We're
is paying-
responsible for that.
we are responsible,
Mhm.
yes, for 18, then anything over that. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm sorry, and I have one last question. And,
Mhm.
not that we can do anything about this right now, but are these 10 current members and 8, and if you don't know this number right now, it's understandable. Are these current employees? Are these people under that retirement package?
it's a combination. There could
Mm.
also be dependents and spouses.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, you're right.
That's fine. So that's of the 523 employee members, that is current, retired, spouses, dependents.
Okay, so the 523 isn't just employees, that's the everybody.
It's members, it's current members.
It's the
Oh,
employees.
so that
It's not
number-
including
So
their
what would be
dependents.
the number if we included all the other people?
Okay, so it's 523 members,
Okay,
employees and members. It's the whole, 523 people are on the plan
okay, so that includes.
altogether.
And
Okay,
that could be $1 million every year.
Yes. Yes. We have, and like I said, we currently have, so you understand the impact that has, that's $18 million. That's the impact. And I will say this, we are protected by the consortium not to be dropped. So just think, and I will go ahead, because I know we do want to certainly go out and get quotes from other companies, but if we were, I would be cautious of
independent.
being independent
No,
out there
I-
by ourselves. But we'll go out and get quotes because I think that's a fair thing to do. And just to see, what if we weren't self-funded, what if we were, we didn't pay for our claims, but we just paid, a fee per employee and not actually paid for all of our claims. Would that be beneficial? I don't know. That's why we're gonna go out and get quotes and see what that would look
Yeah,
like.
but if we're also dropped, unless we have a guarantee that we're not gonna be dropped.
We do.
We couldn't pay our bills.
Well, and I would wonder what that rate would be per member, because look at our rates and, our stop loss runs and things like that. So we would have to provide all that information to get quotes.
Are other schools in the same position or are
Absolutely.
we way out of whack
Well,
here?
I'll tell you, we have another, the average is about 15%. There was 12 in the consortium. Another school is getting 22% increase, 17%, 12% across the board. So it's not just not our school. It's
Right.
the rising cost of healthcare. It's the, the rising cost of, therapy and medicine and stop claims and stop loss claims. So we're not the only school facing these high costs.
So if you look at our budget that you had proposed,
Mhm.
in 5 years, we were looking at being $28 million in the red. So
Bankruptcy.
what are we gonna cut to make up all these differences? What are we gonna do? This has been going on for years. But like when Dr. Redmond, when you leave, we could be 28 million plus in the hole. And we've gotta turn something around somewhere. We've gotta cut
We're
something
working on
back.
those things. Like we had discussed at the work session, we are doing things, and we can go ahead and flip the page because I'll show you. This is the effect it has on the no tax increase. So you see the number, the
See,
three.
now you're up to 31.9.
Yes, yes. However, let me tell you this, because there actually is some good news in that number.
Oh, I don't know what could be good about that.
Well, because
I'm sorry.
that number really should have, the number last week was 2.38. Well,
Right?
it should have, the difference in the rise of the cost of healthcare was 1.3 million. That's how much additional money the 18% took us from the 9% that I had to the 18% was an additional 1.3. So the number last week should have risen by that, but it didn't because we had about $600,000 of savings because due to retirements. So that number actually went down. Last week's number went down by about 600,000. And then now the net difference is about 723,000.
Good job.
So, I believe there's still more to come as far as savings. So we are doing things through attrition. We're looking at class sizes. We are doing things. Is it going to is it going to balance the budget this next year? No, it won't, but it will impact years to come. And, again, we are looking at collapsing class sizes. We're looking at electives and all those types of things to help reduce this number. I
We'll
think
have an option if we want to be jobs and have a school. We have to.
absolutely. So there is what the worst case scenario would be today. And it also includes the match, the 2.197 for the match. So if you turn the next page, again, this is just showing you if it were a 1.78 mil increase, which would be an additional $470,000. So that lessens the shortfall. The next page shows a 3.55 mil increase. And that takes your additional reserve down to about 4.3. And then the next page is your 5.34% mil increase. So the additional slides is what we had talked about last week, where we were, proactively working to reduce expenses. So those are the same slides, but I wanted to show you the most updated numbers we have, and it is absolutely due to the healthcare increase. So next month, we have to vote on a proposed budget. So I need some type of direction tonight to know where I need to go and what I need to propose for next board meeting.
Anyone have any comments for Gary?
What is your, I asked this the last time before all this wonderful news. What is your recommendation as far as all these scenarios?
We are still hoping to reduce some of the costs through more attrition. So we are still looking at that through the end of the year. We do have some people who are actively, looking into submitting their paperwork. Having said that, kind of caught off guard a little bit by that much of an increase. So I think administration had met and our recommendation would be a 50%. For the
A what percent?
the 3.55 millage increase.
Is there any, I'm not
Go
asking.
back,
oh,
go back one slide then. This is what you're recommending. Yes.
Yes, I mean, we still can, we'll do our best to reduce costs, even, driving into next year. I think we're doing a very good job this year of closing the gap that we have this year. I'm pretty positive that we will narrow that down to probably being pretty balanced this year. So that's good going into next year. That helps the unassigned general fund balance, but it doesn't touch the expenses for next year.
Tracy, many years ago, I remember, and I don't think it went well, but asking the union or chatting with the union representatives to see if they would be willing to either greater copay or something, just something to help with this increase. I don't remember what exactly, I wasn't part of it, but I remember there was some sort of memorandum of understanding many years ago, and I don't remember what that was.
In the contract that we just did, I believe that they are contributing more already.
Yeah,
There is a little bit, I remember there
There
was
was
a
a
little
little-
bit of
they
that,
definitely
Yes,
are.
they did.
but this is new news, you know what I
It
mean?
is. It is. And I guess if we get to that point, if administration recommends it and thinks it might be worth it, we might have to look at it.
I got a couple, three ideas. Our student population has dropped 611 kids since 2018. Okay. That was what I dug up on the internet today. Or this week.
600 and what?
We've gone down 611 kids since 2018 as a decline. Is it impossible to say, let's do a hiring freeze till we get some things under wraps? I know we're talking big numbers with retirement and all that, but what if we as a group sat down and you look at your bills for payment and we looked in there at what can be taken out that we don't need to start saving? I'm gonna be honest with you, that thing about the children's candy came up a while ago. And I've been pounded on this by people in the public, and they say, why is my kid getting all this candy? And I said, because it's given out for good behavior. And I said, well, he brings a bag of it home and throws it away because I won't let my kids have it. Do we really need to buy all this candy every month for behavior? I mean, there's just little things like that I see in there that, boom, could we cut? If you look at $1,000 a month for candy, the end of the year, that's $12,000. Yeah, we're not talking millions, but we're talking taking little bites to try to get things down. And I'm sure if we all sit down together, we could probably come up some things that are unnecessary and try to curb a little bit of it.
Sorry.
It's just a thought.
Well, I'm just curious, that $1,000 or whatever, I'm wondering if that's coming out of the schools. Yeah.
I don't know. It's under
discretionary
the bills
fund.
for payment. That's
Right, I'm just,
The
you know,
Pepsi fund.
And
or
also,
kind of like that, but yeah, the Pepsi fund,
it
or whatever they
also
have.
could be like the donuts that were on there. Probably gonna be on there again, kind of, I just bought some. That one of the clubs at school sells donuts.
right.
So this club sells donuts. The money's paid by the district. The club pays the district the money for the check, and the club makes money off of selling them.
But
So
does
there's
the club
different-
reimburse what
Yes.
we're spending to buy it?
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay,
Yes.
they
That-
typically use our credit card, the
Okay.
district's credit card, and gets reimbursed back.
all right. I'm
That happens.
trying to look at
often.
what can we look at
I-
to
I
make
think
a
the
difference.
suggestion should be is we have to tell administration to sharpen your pencil and go line through line and go through and start
Absolutely.
examining everything. So I think that's the step that needs to be.
Yeah.
taken.
To go with what you said about the retirements. When they retire, we're still paying their healthcare
For 8 years, right?
for 8 years. So that increase is gonna go on the retirees. And then to replace them, now you're bringing in that many more and paying that much more on top of that. So essentially, that retirement is not helping us because now it's actually going to double the expense of the medical because they left and we brought in, so now we're paying twice.
That's why I think he was thinking the hiring freeze.
We're not necessarily bringing
we're
in,
not- we're not
sometimes
re-
they're reducing, that's our
Well,
attrition.
That's
That's
right.
kinda
Okay,
why
so
I'm
10
thinking
retire and
They're
Depending on
not
what
necessarily
they-
That's why I'm
replacing.
8 come
thinking if
in,
we
but
do a
we're still
hiring freeze.
increased by 8.
You're saving salary, you're saving
Saving on
wages,
salary.
but you're
That's
right,
all
even,
you're saving.
even if they were replaced, typically it's at a lesser salary.
Well,
The
that might be,
retirees-
go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, the retirees typically are at the top of the scale.
Well, yeah.
That might be something like if future negotiations we look at. I mean, I know it's gonna be difficult, but I mean, you see what's going on here. It's in black and white or
It's not sustainable.
red in this case. So, I mean, this is something that as much as I don't like it, I mean, it's
You had two other
a
things?
shock.
You had two other things?
Well, that was it, a hiring freeze. Let's
Oh.
stop adding people to the benefit. And how do other school districts around here, do they offer 8 years? Why are we?
That was established.
A long time
That-
ago.
I
Well,
think-
maybe we need to redo
That's
that
why I was saying,
and cut it back. If the other school districts aren't doing it, why are we? 8 years is a long time.
We
Used to be
used it
10.
as a hiring tool.
Incentive.
Yes.
There was, and if I remember correctly, there was a school board member back in the nineties that explained it to me once. And obviously I wasn't involved, but basically the economic downturn in this area was so bad. And this area was in such a plight that was the carrot to get teachers to come here. We paid the highest salaries and we gave the best benefits.
Absolutely.
But when things started to equalize, you know,
But the scores haven't increased. They're still towards the bottom of the scale, so we didn't do any good.
so there is room for,
Lots of
Possibly.
improvement.
Okay,
Um,
I think what we have to do is reexamine this, have the administration go back and review everything. I know you're doing it pretty much daily. To try to figure out the best way to reduce the total budget. So we just can't continue doing this. So we have to
They need
find a
some
way
direction.
to
I mean,
reduce
you have to-
our total number. We
I
have
hate, I hate
So
to
just-
say this, but what if we stopped Liberty Curtain right now? You're looking at
to
20.
sign a contract.
yeah, we've already
We
signed a
signed a
contract.
contract. That's not gonna help
And
And
anything.
there's nothing in that contract that says
No,
you can
we're
stop
still
and
paying
pull
for it.
out.
No.
Okay,
No,
moving on.
well, I just.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Sorry. And again, this is sort of insulting to say this. and I don't mean it to be insulting, but when I go to graduation, I don't see advertisements at the end of the graduation, our printing costs. The administration has really done a great job in the last 5 years to bring down paper and printing costs. But that's just one small thing. But if we didn't have to pay for all those costs for graduation and they were done by advertising in the back of it, maybe. I mean, again, that's such small fish. But we can't run the school district alone anymore. We can't. We can't.
Okay, so,
Okay.
well,
Joni needs direction
She-
on how we should for next month.
yes.
so.
they need to know,
where do we want to fall? Anyone want to come up with an idea?
I think if we just follow what the administration is recommending, going with the, what is it, 355?
Yeah.
Then that should get us almost balanced this year.
What are you gonna
So-
do about the people that can't afford that? You're putting people out of their home.
Okay, so I understand that. I really do. Okay, but I also understand that if we don't do something,
Right?
okay, then we are looking at our failing our fiduciary duties.
We're failing
As-
now.
I think what we need to do, I think if we direct administration to go with the 3.55 millage increase, in the meantime, go through line by line and start finding a way to cut. We have till next month to vote. Once they present it to us next month, we vote our hearts and go from there. It'll either pass or fail from there. But I think in the meantime, you have to go through line by line and examine everything and try to reduce and cut what we can.
With the understanding, and I feel confident saying this, that we are in crisis mode. So all little awards and little things like this, those are perks, they're not requirements. So, I mean, me as a school board member, I feel like the district financially is in crisis. And anything that is not a necessity, that will not greatly enhance the student or the teaching, I don't see it as a necessity. And whether or not that number is small or big,
It all adds up.
Okay.
Well, I think it goes without saying that that the administration is going to do that.
but I just want them to know, I feel very comfortable that, let them know, I feel like we're in crisis mode. And that means we don't buy sirloin steaks anymore. We're lucky if we get hamburgers. I'm not saying they buy sirloin steaks, but that's where I'm saying,
Just kind of like we bought 2 new tractors at $30,000+ in the last 2 months. Do we need them?
They
They
were
were
grant funded.
They
They
grant
were grant
funded.
funded.
I know, but
I think what Roger said made a lot of sense. We go with the administration's recommendation here, 3.55. They will go back and they will do their very best, and I trust them to do that, to go through every single thing and leave no stone unturned, and come back and hopefully, when they're done with that in a month, and they get some more information as far as the retirements, which is, I think the window closes on that next week sometime. And as soon as they have all of that information, I'm confident that they can bring that down a little bit. But at this point,
Well,
we
we
have
should
to
have
have,
started this years ago.
well, Chris, I know
Every
they've
year
done
they
that
do
every
this.
year. It's not something that, that,
Well,
it's not like we've gone out here and,
I'm not going to argue about it.
and spent a lot of
Okay.
money. I mean, that was unusually unbudgeted for or whatever. I mean, it's just it's a fact of life with inflation and that, and the cost of healthcare. I mean, we can't keep up with it. And let me go back to what I said last week, and I know it's going to sound like a broken record, but if the people in Harrisburg were doing their job, and I'm taking over
It's
where
not
Wayne
their
left
fault.
off.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are.
Yes, it is.
It
Because
is
they,
not. We
yes.
you can't overspend your checkbook. You
Okay.
have to
If
live with.
they
the
were
budget.
doing their job and it's funding public education like it should be, and they've been remiss for that for many, many years. And now the court case had told them that they have to do it, and they're still not doing it. So they're putting all of these school districts, and we're not alone. Like Joni said, 22% health increase. And that's for another district. I mean, everybody's in the same boat.
Chris,
understand that and
Mr.
agree
Johnson
with
has the floor.
Everybody's in the same boat, and I'm sure every single school board is sitting there having the same discussion that we are. How are we gonna make these budgets? And it's not like we're unique. We're the main ones that are the same. We're in the same boat. And I agree with you. I mean, I'm not arguing with you about things. I mean, I wish we could cut millions of dollars off here, but there are a lot of things you have no control over. And healthcare is one of them, and your contracts that you've already agreed to, you're already locked into that. So you can't change that. So you gotta work within what you've got. And it's unfortunate that we're looking at these costs, but it's just a fact of life.
Chris, you have a comment?
I understand that's the piece of the puzzle. I won't argue with you. But it's a piece of the puzzle. our legislators aren't pushing our money through. I understand that wholeheartedly. That's a big piece of it. But we have to be responsible in other ways. Our student population is going down, our teacher count is up.
And that's one of
And
the reasons we want to reduce it, reduce the numbers.
we
through
gotta
attrition.
reduce a lot to make up for $20 million.
All right, Jeff. Okay, Chris has the floor. We're not gonna have a debate
Sorry.
on this.
Thank you, Joni.
Anything else for Johnny?
I'm not in favor of any increase, but why are we jumping to the 3? Why are we not trying at least the 1? Why are we going right to the 3? Why don't we try the 1.7?
The 25% or the 1.78% will produce about 465,000. And with the larger gap now due to the health increase, the 3.55% will produce about 965,000,
Okay.
I think it is.
And
So,
with you working on cuts,
but we're at 3.1. So even if you raised it to 3.55, you're now at 2.1. And then we're gonna go back absolutely and try. 2.1 is a lot to shave off a budget. And we're working on retirements. We will go through line by line, but the personnel is about 75% of your budget.
and Jeff keeps bringing it up about Harrisburg not doing their job.
Correct.
And we are punishing the citizens of our school district because legislation, we feel is that necessary?
I don't look at it as punishing.
Oh, I
We're
do.
just
When you
trying to
take
run a
money out
school
of my
district.
wallet, that's a punishment. I work hard for it. You work hard for your. I don't enjoy giving my money away. And I
Okay.
don't really know anybody that does.
Anything? Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Tracy, how do you feel about just maybe touching base in, with administration, with the union, just to see if there's any wiggle room there for a 365-day or whatever MOU,
We have-
just
we still
to,
have Contract negotiation again.
just to see, just to put a finger in there in the pool and just see if there's even some flexibility there because,
We'll talk about it in personnel.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Johnny.
Did we get a recommendation for the budget bill?
3.5.
I want to make sure there's consensus. Okay, thank you.
All right, we have no visitors signed up that I see. Are you a reader? You know,
Oh,
Jennifer Reader? I didn't see anything on the paper. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. You did it through email. I was looking on the written paper. Okay, we do have a visitor, Warder Jennifer Reader. You have the floor. If you would please come up to the microphone.
If you want to sign up,
Take your time.
You
Yeah,
can walk.
you can take it back with you.
You don't have to run. Yeah.
For the year.
Go ahead. If you would just identify yourself, please.
My name is Jennifer Reader. I have 3 children who are at some level with the district. One has graduated, one who has shifted to Commonwealth Charter Academy to best meet his individual needs, and one who remains in the middle school. So I wanna thank you for the opportunity to share with you tonight. And I feel terrible because Joni was put in this horrible position to deliver terrible news. And I might, cry tears of joy as I deliver what I feel is very good news. But many of you, I'm going to just read my statement because I feel that's how I'll deliver best. But many of you are familiar with the incident that occurred at a basketball game in Jersey Shore last school year. When a 15-year-old was quote unquote managed by a security offer in such a way as to result in the security officer's termination and charges being filed against him. The victim in that incident was my son. The conversation at the preliminary hearing was that they were going to recommend Veterans Court, and I was very much in favor. It's never been about vengeance. A year later, however, the charges have recently been dropped. As a mother, I can't describe the physical and emotional responses that overcame me. My whole being cried injustice, and I had to decide what the appropriate response to all of this was going to be. My son's behavior has often been anything but meek, mild, mannerly, and innocent. And perhaps Mr. Evie recalls and can attest to that. I am not a mother who denies or condones the poor choices of my children. However, despite his reputation, every statement I have heard from those present at the time of this incident makes it abundantly clear that he did nothing to deserve the nature of the treatment he received that night. In fact, we've been told video footage of it is to be used as a training exercise in what not to do. All three of my children are adopted, and two of them were old enough at the time of adoption to have been permanently impacted and shaped by coming from hard places. It resulted in an attachment disorder and an inherent mistrust of adults, particularly those in authority. What happened would not have been appropriate with anyone as the victim. My concern as the mother for my own child is was that the occurrence, and much more so its dismissal, served to validate all of his thinking errors and fears of inadequacy and mistrust. The lesson to him would appear to be that the standards that he's been told or been held accountable to by us as his parents, by the school, by the quote unquote system and society as a whole, do not apply to a man who assaulted him without just cause. Since that night, however, I have also been in an ongoing struggle to find an appropriate means to express my gratitude to another. All this time later, I've yet to act on it because nothing I could think of seemed to be enough. Every rendering of this story has had another common theme. So in Christian response to the dropping of the charges, I am here to share with you that there is a hero in this story. Forgive me. Nick Varelli, presumably there simply to support his son and the other members of the team, was the presence my son needed that night. It has also been a very long week, so I'm exhausted. I apologize. Oh, goodness. He wasn't, quote unquote, on the job. And my son, having transferred to Commonwealth Charter Academy, is no longer his student. I know there were many other occasions when he was there for him as his principal. On one such occasion, my son was trying to avoid a fight and left school grounds without waiting for his father to arrive. Mr. Varelli and his staff followed him to ensure his safety until someone else could be there to do so. At that time and others, my son continued to seek some form of validation for his belief that Mr. Varelli couldn't be trusted, that he himself had things under control and didn't need help. I knew better. After this incident, he came to a partial realization. He said this was the first time in his perception that Mr. Varelli, quote, had his back, end quote. And I can't describe to you how meaningful that is. So not in my statement here, but I've commented that this security officer validated all of his misbeliefs in the power of authority. This serves to the opposite.
We have forgot to tell you ahead of time, we have a 4-minute limit. And you approached it. So
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, but.
Oh,
Hey, Butch,
Go ahead and finish.
I was gonna say, I want to speak and I want to give you my 4 minutes.
So
Thank
it's not how it works. I'll let you finish real quick, but
Thank you. I'll pick up my pace best I can.
thank you.
The assistant district attorney handling the case made it abundantly clear that Mr. Varelli was the saving grace of the evening. She stated that without his efforts to diffuse the situation, it would have almost certainly have been far uglier, not only for my son, but for all those present. His father and I were not there. I thank God regularly that Nick Pirelli was. It pleases me immeasurably to share with you also that the young man who was once in a constant state of anger and animosity virtually never seeks to engage us in battle anymore. Much of his time as a KCSD student, he made minimal effort, was often disruptive, and determined to quit school. Last semester, he achieved honor roll for the first time and is now taking additional classes to get back on pace with his graduating class. He continues to make occasional poor choices with potential for significant long-term consequences. However, he more readily recognizes these and accepts responsibility. I could not have envisioned the young man he has become in the last year or two, and we are incredibly blessed. Don't mistake me, there's a great deal more that has contributed to his growth than any one incident or person, and we have a long way to go. Nonetheless, I believe this experience was life-altering for him and for us in a strangely positive way. More than anyone, we have Nick Pirelli to thank for ensuring our son's safety and for turning a horrible experience into evidence of God's mercy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. One more speaker. It's Kevin, correct? Yeah. You would just identify yourself, please, when you speak. Yes. Sorry, but we have 4 minutes.
Again, my name is Kevin Ferrara. I'm a resident of Pine Creek Township 2. The following is not personal, it's strictly business. Negative $30 to $31 million as of today. That's what we see the district's projected remaining budget reserves will be in 5 years. To create effective solutions, you need to identify the problem. The problem I see today is you, the school board, who for years has demonstrated an unwillingness to take responsibility for woefully mismanaging taxpayer funds. During last week's discussions, I heard several members lay blame on legislators for the decrease of or delays in providing revenue. It's not legislators or other school districts who have the final say on KCSD's budget. It's you, whom your constituents put their faith in to be fiscally responsible. And I'm certain many are reconsidering that faith. Choices were given that included potential tax increases. Increases that, let's be honest, when implemented, not if, will cause a greater financial burden on those in your regions dealing with a high inflation crisis, forcing them to dole out more of their hard-earned money. And for what? An out-of-control contract for a new school, the possible installation of an expensive solar farm that will have an environmental impact, the constant creation of positions throughout the administration. At what point does the insanity stop? Of the options provided, I noticed the opposite of what the amazing students throughout KCSD have a competent understanding of. Don't spend more than you can afford. Year after year, as revenue barely increases, expenses do. Knowing that, why then are you willing to drive this district deeper in debt? Every option failed to resolve the fact that unless this board takes radical action now to reduce or eliminate spending, in 5 years, this district will be massively in debt, unsustainable. Who will bail you out then? Those taxed to the point they're living paycheck to paycheck and going deeper in debt just to survive? Or students who will graduate over the next several years? The district population is declining, and as remaining residents continue to make sacrifices every day for you, I ask, what is it you do for them? This board seems to rely on promised funds as a source of revenue. Take note, promised money holds no value. It's never guaranteed, just as are your positions. If you don't mismanage your personal finances, then why are you so cozy doing so with taxpayer monies? Exactly what example are you setting for students? That it's okay because you could just tax residents to bail out the district? Each of you has the opportunity to just walk away at any time and leave this mess for someone else to manage. Unless they relocate, taxpayers live every day with your failures and fallout. Because of such, who's going to bail them out? Who among yourselves are prepared to fall on your sword and make sacrifices to overcome and adapt so as to prevent an insurmountable deficit from occurring? At the very least, who has the courage to issue an apology regarding the board and administration's history of financial mismanagement and how it came to this point? I'd expect if you mismanage the private company's finances as you're doing with the districts, your employment would be terminated to prevent what was shown here last week. A tsunami of red numbers signifying not just a deficit, but uncontrolled hemorrhaging to which no bandage will stop. At this point, it requires trauma surgery. You're the surgeons. It's time you did your job, honored your oath, or faced the consequences of poor performance. I know some of you are new and inherited this financial debacle. However, understand that whether you're new or old to this board, your voice, your actions today, and over the course of your terms will result in your being named
Kevin,
a hero or
your-
zero. I'm
Your
almost
four minutes
done.
about it. If you could expedite, please.
Sure, let me finish. The choice is yours. Your students, your constituents, your bosses are watching. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Anything for anybody? Let's see, when D committee reports.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, Chris has something that he wants
Yeah.
for the committee report,
The policy, go ahead.
policy.
We had a policy meeting the other day. And policy 005 organization, we tabled that to the next policy meeting so that we can get some clearance from PSBA and some ideas. We're looking into some other things. Concussion management, we tabled that until the next policy meeting. There's a whole raft of stuff involving that. And Dr. Redmond's working on it. Dr. Baldino's working on it. I'm working on it. So that's just something to go through. The policy on 123.2 sudden cardiac arrest. We all know when you have a sudden cardiac event, you're usually going to die. And we changed the wording. It stated that a physician assistant or a registered practical nurse could clear somebody that's had a cardiac event to go back into a sport or an event. We are crossing that out, and we're going to make it that if somebody has a cardiac event, that they need to get clearance, written clearance from a cardiologist before they can participate again. That's the big thing, to make sure the students are safe and they're good to go. Other than that, we have a lot of stuff that we're gonna read in May. We were presented with proposed policy 904, which is a new PSBA thing, but we didn't have time to go through it. And then Dr. Redmond gave us a sample policy on something he wants us to look at on a superintendent with the board policy. And that wasn't on the agenda, so we couldn't discuss that. So we're gonna bring that stuff up the next policy meeting.
Any questions on policy? No?
Safety and security.
No other meeting, no other
No, we
committees
have
had
one
meetings.
coming up.
Right.
No other committees had a meeting,
And
so
curricular, co-curricular was postponed till next month.
next week.
Yes.
When is it gonna be?
I will have to get back to you. I
Oh,
honestly
okay, no
do
problem.
not,
That's fine.
do not know.
Roger.
All right. I'd like to move the entire agenda. I'd like to make a motion to move the entire agenda, except for the following items that have been requested to be removed for special consideration. Okay. F3. F7. All of I. J1. And all of L.
Okay, we have a motion to move the agenda with those noted exceptions. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Elizabeth. Any questions? Anything else anyone else would like?
Are
pulled?
we gonna look at the change orders then, or not?
Yes,
Yes, that's
Okay,
one
that's
of
what I thought.
L, I think all of L is,
That's under.
or
I.
all of I.
Aye.
Okay.
Yep,
just wanted to
all
make
of I
sure.
is covered under that.
Okay.
Any other questions or anything else anyone would like pulled? If not, we have a motion and a second to move the agenda with exception of F3, F7. I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, J1, L 1, 2, 3. Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Baldino,
Still there, he's muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
yep,
All right, sorry. Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes,
Ms. Lynch,
Yes,
Mr. Scaff,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
8 yes votes, motion passed.
okay, moving down, we're going to go to F3.
F3. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to, that we take action to approve resolution number 148 to uncommit the funds that were previously committed.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Elling, second by Tracy to uncommit F3. Any questions on F3? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Roger.
Okay, like to make a motion to move, what is it?
Seven.
F7, and that is the solar letter of intent.
We have
I'll
a
second.
motion and second by Jeff. Any questions on the F7?
Yeah.
Chris?
Should we be signing this yet? I'd like to see if we could get some of these other solar companies to come in and give us a presentation also and see, not jump on the first bandwagon and see if we can get a better bang for the buck. And I also want to know if all these trees that we have to clear, are we doing that? Or who's doing it?
Alyssa's on
I think
online.
Alyssa mentioned.
Alyssa?
that. I think you mentioned the other day, they're responsible for clearing the land, but Alyssa, could you comment on that? The question was, who's gonna be responsible for clearing the land?
Colton's working on it, Alyssa.
Sign language.
One moment. Colton is there.
Okay. All right, thank you. McClure would be responsible for the tree removal, and that would be included in the power purchase agreement.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? on this?
Yes.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Has anybody talked to the township to even see if they're even going to approve it? Before you even bother doing a study, do you know if you're allowed to do it?
That's part of her study, she said in her presentation last week.
Yeah.
That was part of everything.
Well, that's
is
why I'm
working
asking,
with
has anybody
townships.
done that?
We
Has she
didn't
even
give them the
approached?
Go-ahead to do that yet.
That would be part
No,
of the
That would
next
be
step.
part of
be
this.
part of the
We
letter
give
of
them the
intent.
go-ahead to do that.
Go ahead, Bill. I heard you say something.
Yeah, if we do this and we cut down a lot of trees, that's a lot of wood that might generate some income. Who gets that income? Did,
That could go to the district, and we're not through that process yet to figure out how much trees and what that was worth, but that could certainly go to the district.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions on that?
um,
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
thank you. It's no surprise that I'm very positive, moving forward with lowering our electrical payments every month. Would any board member want to see other presentations from, I'm not saying I know all the experts, but whether it's So just so you have a better understanding of what solar is and the options with the cells and all of that, or, you know, Penn State or someone, I'm not saying that McClure, this isn't to take away from McClure's reputation, what they've already accomplished, the sites that they put up, you know, the documentation they've given us. But I'm just saying, I mean, I've taken a lot of courses and I've done a lot of workshops, and I'm not an expert, but I know there's a lot of information out there. So I don't know if any other board members would want to expand their knowledge on it, or, because I realize when we do if we do the contract with McClure, the final contract, there are things we can put in there, you know, curriculum, replace trees, whatever. But I'm just saying, it's, you know, I feel confident with solar, so, but I'm not an expert. Is there
Any other
anyone here that,
That's directed more toward the letter of intent, is it? We have a motion and second for the letter of intent. Is that something we would like to do? That's the motion on the floor.
I think, yes, I'd like to see their proposal and go forward, because with me having a solar system, and it's a big one, I see the benefits and stuff of it, but I want to make sure that we're covered on the backside also.
Any other comments on the solar?
I think I agree with you, Chris. I think we need to go ahead and get with a letter of intent. I think that we've had a very good working relationship with McClure over the last few years. And we have seen savings, some significant savings with the energy projects that we've done in 2 or 3 of our buildings that we've worked closely with them on. And I think we really need to go ahead and see what they can.
The biggest part of
they can come up with.
us making money on this and saving is teaching people to use a light switch.
Okay,
That's huge.
okay.
I-
We have a
But-
motion.
but-
Any other questions, Bill? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. I have another question, please. With the projected costs for this, there's obviously going to be a lag time where we're still paying the same electric bill. How much is this going to cost us during that lag period?
Melissa?
So we are going to try to expedite this study to reduce any amount of lag, but the due diligence will take a few months. Even once a contract would potentially be approved, there'll be about a year's worth of time to get the system built and get it interconnected to the PPL grid. The system itself can be built in 3 to 6 months, but the interconnection right now is about a year waiting. So I would say continue to shop around your electricity, keep an eye on when supplier contracts end so it can align to when the tentative solar array would turn on, which allows you to sell back to the grid. But you know, you'd be doing that same, you're buying electricity like you would if you decide to do nothing over the next few months. So I would just continue to shop around.
Alyssa, may I ask a clarifying question? Will there?
Of course.
Well, will there be a time when the district will be paying both our current electrical or utility bill and paying McClure for the installation of the solar arrays?
I don't believe. I will follow up and confirm. And Dip, I'm not sure if Dip can be unmuted. He's from my team as well. Maybe he knows the answer. But I'm almost sure that your payments don't start until the solar array is turned on. Dip, are you able to unmute and clarify?
Yes, thank you. And that is correct. The payments would not start until solar is generated, and we would time that with your electricity contracts as well, or get you out of them.
Okay.
Great,
Any other
thank you.
questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dip.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Bill.
yeah, could you, I'm just not clear exactly what we're supposed to be voting on right now. Could you clarify that for me, please, Butch?
Or getting a letter of intent to go ahead and go forward with the project, not for the project, for them to start doing the engineering, the approvals with the township, the next step in the process for a letter of intent for them to, for McClure to go ahead and start moving forward. Is that correct, Alyssa?
That's correct. This is just the due diligence piece, and there's no cost to the district for us to do this.
And no commitment?
No commitment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Butch.
Thank you, Bill. Elizabeth?
And I still feel very strongly that Liberty Curtain should be packaged with this
Okay,
for
that's
obvious
not
reasons.
part of this. Let's move forward with the motion we have. Stay on track. So we have a motion, we have a second, and there's no other questions. And we have a vote, please. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes,
Mr. Scaff,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino.
No. No.
We got you, Bill.
6
Okay,
yes
thank you.
and 2 no.
The motion passed 6-2. Okay, what we have next? Go ahead, Roger.
Okay.
Jay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion.
I'm sorry, aye.
Aye, yes. Pull it up.
I won, Bill.
I'd like to make a motion, for I-1, pass bills.
I'll second that.
You got a motion and second to pay the bills. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for, I-2, CIU Transportation Agreement.
We have a motion. We have a second for the transportation agreement.
I'll second.
A motion and second. Any questions on the agreement? Nope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, motion passed.
Like to make a motion for I-3, to approve the contract with Bayada for school nursing services.
We have a motion. Do we have a second for the
I'll
other
second
nurses?
that.
Second by Jeff. Any questions on the contract with Bayada Nursing?
Yeah, I do, Butch, please.
Go ahead, Bill.
They still haven't corrected the things I brought up last week. Part of the contract calls for a nurse, part of the contract calls for a home health aide. I don't want to put us in a position where we're paying for a nurse, when all that someone needs is a home health aide. And I feel strongly that that needs to be corrected before this is considered.
I thought they did.
It says individual now, supplied by Bayana.
Well, okay, when I read it this afternoon, it still had the nurse in there. Let me look and see what you've got up there now.
It says the individual supplied it. Shall be a home health aide.
It still says nurse contract
What section are you reading?
in
under?
the label, in the title. Wait a minute.
Nursing services, yes.
Is, okay, you found it? I'm still struggling with my computer here.
It's contract for nursing services, yes.
Okay, responsibility of Bayada, I'm right off of the bat without reading the whole thing again. I see in section 1, subsection B, it says personal files of its nurse. I think there were other places where it mentioned nurse and not home health aide.
I think that's school nurse. Okay, yeah, we can.
Okay, yeah, that was supposed to be fixed.
Yeah.
So I think they missed that nurse.
Mr. President. Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to rescind my motion and request that we table this
I would second
until
that.
until
Just as-
those items are fixed.
Okay, Roger's rescinding his motion. I think.
And I would second
This
that
is-
motion to
Just a second,
rescind.
Bill. Who did the second originally? Jeff?
Jeff.
So you want to
Yeah,
rescind?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So we need to, I guess, let's vote on rescinding it, I think. No?
I just had one.
Okay.
question.
We're good with
Yes.
rescinding table. So we're gonna table it. Now we need
Yeah.
a motion to table it.
Mr. President, I'd like to table I-3, the biotic contract for school nursing services until we can get all the wording properly done.
We have a motion. Do we have a second to table it? second by Chris. Any questions on tabling it, Elizabeth?
Yes, I just want to make sure that the date, April 12th, we're not going to lose any consistency with coverage. This is totally new, right? So it's not going to interrupt anything. Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm gonna suggest this may be a time-sensitive issue that maybe need to be done this month. Is Elizabeth or Lisa online that they could clarify anything and let us know if there's anything
That's what I was,
expedient that this needs to be done?
I will have to get back to you.
Lisa, I believe Lisa's online. Is she
I
able-
do know Lisa.
Can
told me
we,
that's the
can we
same
unmute
contract.
Lisa?
Hi, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes.
This is a matter of time sensitivity because this individual does have this service. We did go back, I personally went back to Beata because the word nurse in that one line indicated that it was changed to individual. I spoke with Beata directly. This is in that contract, the individual will be an HHA, which is a home health assistant. This is time sensitive. This child must come to school with their individual to support them. And I am asking that you please reconsider this. It is the standard contract that Beata is issuing. And because of the student's age, this would limit the student from attending school without this individual. Right at this moment, I notified Beata today that this would be going to the board tonight, and because of insurance approval, they need it by tomorrow.
can't we just make a motion with the correction?
There's already a motion to table it. You'd have to vote
We'd
that
have
up
to
or down.
rescind that. Start over.
Or
Well-
rescind it.
Well, the kid, we got to take care of the kid. But we don't want to sign something that isn't.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We had questions in a second for tabling it. I would suggest if you don't want to table it, we vote it down. So,
So
Although-
The coverage is strictly for an HHA, and that is why in that opening sentence, Beata is a nursing agency that has both nursing and home health care. So they are a nursing care agency with a division. In the line that was the opening, that it used to say the nurse will be an HHA, it does say the individual will be an HHA.
yeah, just, we're gonna need them to
She's
fix
correct
it.
there.
And B2, it says nurse also. This, have
can-
replaced nurse with employee.
Butch, I can say this because I've used Bayard. The home health aide is the one that comes to you. But once a quarter, a nurse comes out, reevaluates, make sure the HHA is doing the correct procedures and getting it done. So I don't really have a problem with the nurse word being in there because the home health aide actually works under the nurse's direction. And if something needs changed, the nurse has the authority to change it right then and there.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table it. If we don't want to table it, I'd suggest.
Just
vote. So
do it.
Roll
shoot it
call.
down.
Roll call vote, please, on tabling. Bill, you understand? We're gonna vote to table.
Okay. I understand.
Mr. Elling,
No.
Mr. Johnston,
No,
Mr. Knopf,
No,
Ms. Lynch,
No,
Mr. Scaff,
No,
Mrs. Smith,
No,
Dr. Baldino,
No,
Mr. Cannon.
No.
now we need a motion for it.
Okay, now, I'd like to go back and do my original motion to approve the Beata contract for school nursing services.
I'll
I'll-
second it.
We have a motion and a second for the contract. Any questions on the contract? If not, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Johnston,
yes,
Mr. Knopf,
Yes,
Ms. Lynch,
yes,
Mr. Scaff,
Yes,
Mrs. Smith,
yes,
Dr. Baldino,
no,
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Elling.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
motion passed.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for I4 Liberty Curtain change order sand filter tank.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second on the change order. Any questions?
I thought we already did that.
We did vote, the amount has gone down. What we approved last month, the number now is the different number, it went down. First one was, I think, yeah, 20, a couple $1,000s more.
But we added one more to it now.
It's a different one, yeah. The first L4 and L5 we voted on last month.
Right.
The numbers went down on them, so
So now we got to revote.
we're just voting on change, to reflect on that change.
Okay.
Do we have any other?
Can we do 4 and 5 together?
We already have a motion for 4. Any other questions on 4? All those in favor, oh, I'm sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston.
Yes.
8 yes votes.
Motion passed.
I'd like to make a motion for I-5, Liberty Curtain change order for the soil removal.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on L5? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf.
Yes,
7 yes, 1 no.
the motion passed.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for L6, the Liberty Curtain change order for the sewer line.
We have a motion for the Liberty Curtain sewer line. We have a second.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
Yeah, this throws us over budget.
No,
Well, I'm
it
looking
doesn't.
at it right here. The original contract amount was 1,707,000. With this addition, the contract amount after the change order is 1,710,605.86. So that changes the contract.
Built into the, so I'm working on getting some clarification from the architect. Built into the architect's contract is about $200,000 for change orders. So I think there's an accounting issue about how that's paid right now. I'm getting clarification from the architect to make sure that things are accounted for properly.
In the right category.
Yeah, right. So everything is going in the right amount, and we're not increasing the contract amount because.
Okay, well then should we wait until we have some clarification? Because I asked to see a site assessment and still have not seen it yet.
So on this, Rob can speak to, he was on here, he can speak to the timeliness of getting this work done, if this will hold up the overall project. He was on there, yes, he is.
It's still there. Rob?
So the specific question, Rob, is will delaying this approval of the sewer line, or not approving the sewer line right now, will that delay the project?
Hear me?
There we go.
Can you hear me? Yes,
Yeah.
it would delay it because at this point they have to get the sleeves through the building. This change order is really, it's up to the board if whether they want it or not. I'm bringing it to you as a cost saving option because now what we're able to do is we're able to get rid of liquid weight as a solid waste to the sewer authority versus taking it to the transfer station. So for years to come, you'll recover savings from this. But by all means, if you don't want to take those savings and save I think the change order is $3,600 and change. If you don't want to take those, it's not a problem. I'm bringing it forward to you at this point because it is a way for long-term savings, because we do know that at Liberty Curtain, our cost for rubbish removal or for solid waste is considerably more because it's going to Center County Solid Waste versus going to Clinton County Solid Waste. So anything we can do up there to save dollars, we're looking at. And we're using a compactor because it does save us money, but we are we do have a lot of liquid because the kids dump a lot of milk out and juices and stuff at lunch. So we pick that up, but over the years period, it results in tons of garbage that we're not sending as solid waste. We're sending it as liquid waste at a much cheaper rate.
Any other questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Scaff,
No.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
No.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
and Ms. Lynch.
No.
Motion should be stalled 4-4.
Yeah, 4-4.
The motion did not pass. Okay.
Okay. Like
When can we, I have a question, but when can we expect clarification on, Dr. Redmond said that we were awaiting clarification.
I have a meeting set up with the architect.
Are you asking me that?
No, Rob. I have a meeting set up either next week or the week after. I'd have to look at my calendar to find that out with the architect.
Okay.
Since the motion did not pass, we'll have to stop the installation of the sewer line.
Extension of the sewer line.
Extension of the sewer line.
So we get some clarification.
We
and
can't go
come
back and revote. We can't go back and
Revote.
revote it and change it. You guys are complaining about the budget. We're doing this for future savings, to make things better for future savings, and you're voting this down because you want to argue about.
How many more change
36.
orders are gonna come out because we didn't?
We
do
don't
our
know. Let's
homework
move
in the
on.
beginning?
Make a comment, please.
J1, please.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for J1 for the personnel.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and second for J1. Any questions on personnel?
Is that, I'm trying to scan down through it. Is this where? Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
We're going to hire a mower custodian. 8 hours a day, 260 days a year, a rate of $14 a day or an hour.
So it's a replacement of a custodian, but that will have both do normal custodial duties, but also be able to mow. So it's a replacement of other custodian who has left us. We're not increasing the number of custodians.
Okay, is the $29,000 a year that is gonna pay, what's it gonna cost us to mow grass? Is that cheaper to get an outside source to do it?
We still need a custodian. At the end of the day, we still need a custodian to cover our custodial costs, but some of that time can be used to help take care of the outside areas.
Okay.
Any other questions on the personnel?
I do.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Well, personnel also combines with L3. So to pass the personnel, do we pull that one employment off of this temporarily until it can be discussed? Or do we discuss L3 and J1 at the same time because they're connected to each other? So however you would like to do it. One's a transfer on the J1 and L3 is
A new position.
a highway position. So how would you like to do that?
If we can get the motion pulled and then do two, we'll do them both together. Roger?
Mr. President, I'd like to pull the motion for J1 and.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Tracy.
Fine.
Fine, okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a new motion to pass J1 and L3, since apparently they are both connected.
We have a second on J1 and L3.
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Smith. Any questions on J1 or L3?
I got a lot of them.
Let's start with Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to make it very clear that this is not about the individual's character, their abilities, or how I feel about the individual. Okay, that has nothing to do with it. But I'm just going to give a little detail, and I'm hoping that through this discussion, I can be convinced of the rationale. But I did not know that a director's position was not going to come to the board for discussion first on whether or not we were going to put it out so we could have candidates offer their resumes. So we would have an opportunity to see what's out there, what qualifications they had, how many years of experience in human resources, and potentially, hopefully hire someone at a lower cost. But we could have gone through that whole process and we've ended up with the same cost with the same person, but we didn't go through that process. I was not aware of this until I saw it on the board docs for our work session. So I was completely out of the discussion from the get-go. So as of right now, unless I can be convinced otherwise of the rationale, I would like that to be tabled for the Director of Human Resources position, and that we put it out so we can get, I put out a job description, and then
Let's get on with the question, please.
can we pull, may we pull, are we able to pull out the transfer from J1 and pull L3 and table them until we are able to put the job out to the public and have resumes sent to us so we can review options for the director's position and what's the best fit for the district. And also,
Okay.
I had mentioned that there's a potential, we might be able to get a third-party consulting firm, but that was never researched. So we don't know if that's an option either.
Chris, do you have any questions?
Yes, I was under the impression that Randy Zangara, when he was hired, was going to be doing the HR and the administrative assistant job. Now, all of a sudden, we're adding a position in there?
Dr. Redmond, would you please explain the rationale behind this? I think we already went through this reorganization before.
We've not
Excuse
discussed this as a board.
Can we, please, Dr. Redmond, would you please explain the rationale behind this movement?
I can't remember which board meeting it was, but there, a couple of board meetings ago, I did bring it to the full board to talk about the reorganization of the administrators in the district. And in that discussion, I did describe the transfers that I would be making, and one of those was to create the HR position. And so the rationale that I used was that one of the things that we know we need for our students and for our staff is a greater level of support with our building level administrators than we're currently able to provide, because Dr. Zangara is split between academic support as well as the HR position. So with Dr. Zangara, we spent days looking at potential ways for us to increase the support in those areas that we needed it, in particular support in the buildings with the building administration, as well as human resources, and a way to do that that wasn't going to cost the district money. And in fact, by making these transitions, it would cause a net savings for the district. So while we are creating a new director position, we are not adding the number of administrators. We're not increasing the number of director level positions in the district. It's a reorganization of the staff that we currently have. Again, looking what the goal was to both increase the support that we need to have for our building, as well as for our work with our bargaining groups and HR, payroll, that sort of thing. Increase both of those, reducing cost for the district for administrators.
Okay, what I don't even know who this fella is. If he walked right here in front of me, I would not know him. What certifications and experience in HR does he have?
Much as often happens in school districts, actually more often than not, the central office human resources, especially for districts our size, the human resources director is typically a school administrator that moves to the central office and learns the job by working in the central office and then by specific training that is provided to that person as they move into the role.
Okay, has he been an administrator and worked in the central office?
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious what the requirements of that position are, but you kind of just explained them. What I'm concerned about is I would have liked to seen us be able to talk to him. And as Elizabeth said, interview a couple different people on it, just like the process you went through when you were hired. We know nothing about this individual or about what his qualifications are. And we just heard from Joni that we're so far in the hole, but here we're adding a position.
We aren't adding a position. We are not adding a position.
What's he paid now?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable discussing that. In an open board meeting.
Okay, well, I'm sure we're up in the pay and when you add 125,000 a year, you're saying that you're not, but there's benefits and costs and all that stuff involved that was in the paperwork. So you're actually averaging $250,000 a year. If you ballpark in all the benefits, the off time, everything else.
The individual is already getting those same benefits.
It's already an
I
employee.
just had to ask a
It's just-
question. I'm allowed to do that.
Yes. So what's happening, I can answer your question. The individual already has a position in the district. The individual is just getting his position rearranged. So we're actually reducing the number of administrators by moving staff around, changing titles, changing positions, changing responsibilities.
Okay.
Correct, Dr. Redmond?
Correct.
We discussed this in the March 7th executive session.
So we talked about it at length and about rearranging the administrative team because we're trying to reduce. That's our goal, is try to reduce the numbers. We want to cut down. That's what we've talked about. And when we start cutting down, the duties are still there. So we have to rearrange who's going to be doing that. And when we rearrange, there's going to be title changes. So it's going to be, so we're not hiring another individual. All we're doing is changing his responsibilities, giving him some additional responsibilities.
Okay, so who is going to take over the duties that he was doing before?
So we rearranged those duties to be taken over by an assistant principal that's moving out of the assistant principal school.
Okay, and then who takes that guy's, but it's got to have a trickle effect.
It does, and as I explained in the March meeting, the net effect was that even though we're hiring, because one of our elementary principals is retiring, we're making some moves where we're not, that school is still going to be covered by a part-time principal, and so that's allowing us to make some other moves. So
Okay.
the net effect is that we're reducing the total number of administrators.
I just don't want to be hiring more staff that are not needed. We got to look at that.
Yeah, we're reducing a position, rearranging responsibilities. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. And also, to, the contract is for 5. If it was 3 years, that way we wouldn't have the disruption of the superintendent's contract coming up at the exact same time as this particular contract. So if it was 3 years, then it would be staggered. So I think that would be a huge benefit, whoever is sitting wherever.
Any other questions on it?
I only have one.
Go ahead, Tom.
And it's, you may not want to answer it, but the amount of money that we're saving by combining this man's job and this man's job and that man's job, Are we only saving on the benefits? Did the pay increases go and use up what the other person?
No, no, it's benefits and there's also some amount of salary that's been reduced. I'm sorry, I don't have that exact number.
No,
but
no,
it's
I
on-
don't need an
yeah,
exact, I'm
yeah,
just
but-
asking, is it just that we're saving on benefits
No,
by
it's-
eliminating a position?
No, it's benefits and some salary.
Okay, because I know you said you wouldn't tell, and we don't need to know the dollar figure that the man makes.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
No.
six yes.
Motion passed 6-2. All right, so that should have been J1 and L3.
J1, okay. I'd like to make a motion to proceed with L1, Keystone Central Education Support Professionals Association contract.
And second,
Second.
any questions? Tracy, everything's been worked out, everything's good. I mean,
Yes.
I'd like to thank you and your personnel committee, Jesse, Colton, thank you very much, you guys. It was a very good process. I think it worked out well. Thank you very much. Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
8 yes votes.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for L2, the MOU with Instructional Act 93 for the Dean of Students.
We have a second on L2.
Second.
Mr. Johnson, any questions on L2?
Yes.
Go ahead, Tom.
This is still not increasing staff, correct?
It's transferring staff, yes. Yes.
Because I'm reading, and it says along with the addition of a level 6 on the administrator's house. So that means we created a level 6.
Yes, we created a position title that didn't exist, but in terms of personnel, we're not increasing the number of personnel.
We've never had this position, so we're creating this position. That's what the level 6, we're actually creating that level 6. There's a person that would have been a facilitator perhaps, being moved into this position because all the shuffling we're doing, with getting away with the one elementary principal, moving people around. This is part of that entire process of moving people. But we just created a new position and a name. Any other questions on it? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
Yeah.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
Motion passed 7-1.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for M1 to adjourn.
Second,
I will second that.
Uh-oh, who's seconding
Jeff, give
it?
it to
I don't
Jeff.
care who said it.
all right. Thank you very much. See you when we see you.